Welcome to American Dreams. My guest today is Roy Moëd. Roy, welcome to today's show.
Hi, Alan. Great to be here.
So, Roy, can you tell us how you started out in your career and what inspired you to create LifeBook Memoirs and why it is so personal to you?
Sure. Well, as you can tell from my age, my career started quite a while ago, but I wasn't a typical academic. I failed everything at school, having come from South Africa and lived through the apartheid there, and then going to Jersey and the Channel Islands, where, as one of the two Jews on the island, there was huge anti-Semitism. So I'd get beaten up at school and had a pretty tough, 7 to 14 years of realizing apartheid first and then anti-Semitism, and then coming to England in the 60s were the most wonderful sort of hippie days, in the late 60s, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, free concerts. So three different channels of life, but it kept me back in school. And I then had 29 jobs in 6 years. And those jobs I called my UOL, University of Life, because although academically I wasn't bright and my dyslexia was keeping me back, the opportunity that those jobs gave me and the contacts I made were fantastic. And then at the age of 25, I got fired from my last job. I was great at the interviews, but I was terrible at the job, so I kept getting fired. And I decided to start a business in airline catering, and little cups of orange juice and pineapple juice were the first products we made for Iran, and slicing lemons for your gin and tonic for your drinks on British Airways. But my friend and I, we built that into a business which had 600 employees around the world. And when we sold it in 2008, it was turning over around 100 million. So it was sort of a typical entrepreneur's journey of the dyslexia, the poor academic, and then creating a business that was global. But Alan, I never really felt I'd added any value to anyone's life in providing airline food. Um, so having sold it and then having a little bit of fun, um, taking up things like polo at the age of 50, having never ridden a horse, I suddenly decided I wanted to have a bit of purpose in my life, a bit more relevant. And, in reading your book, I've read your journey and fascinated and motivated by it. So it was that took me to looking at my father's life story and wondering, he was depressed, he was blind, he was end of life. And I thought, how can I motivate him? How can I give him purpose? How can I give him a reason to look forward to next week? And unfortunately, that was very hard. And I sent my secretary to visit him each week to interview him on the basis of maybe getting him to look forward to that. Not wanting the story because I thought I knew that already, but more wanting him to enjoy it. And I don't think he particularly did. And he didn't last long. We only got about 35 pages, which was that book there was my dad. That was the first book. Um, and so that got me to actually say, so you think you're an entrepreneur? Um, how can you help more elder adults around the world enjoy their lives more? That led me to go to Baycrest in Toronto and the Brain Health Institute there, Cognicity. And I went with a young girl who was a social entrepreneur. And we looked into how could you create an environment where people enjoyed telling their story on the basis that they were going to get a book to give to their family, but they enjoyed the journey. And so I worked on that then. We worked out if you deconstructed the interviewing from the writing, you could do this all over the world in a scalable way, not a traditional publishing way. And
But
that's
in today's fast-paced digital world, why do you think recording personal stories in print matters more than ever?
well, we obviously record them with face-to-face interviews. So we're not we use a digital recorder, but the interviewer is sitting there and having a chat with you, your mum, dad, or whoever, and getting that journey, that interesting journey down. But the element that when it comes to the output, yeah, once you've got the content, once you've used a proper ghostwriter to write the story, not AI, which doesn't have the empathy yet to put into it, or humanity, you can put it in any output. You can put it in a digital format. But you know what? As our printer says on his website, if you want to read the Magna Carta from 1086, you can go with white gloves, you can turn the pages, you can read it. You want to read a floppy disk from 1996? You can't. And digital media is not a format. Our books are printed on an American paper, an archive paper called Mohawk. It'll last 400 years. The Library of Congress uses it. The American Library of Congress uses it. So when you see a 12-year-old kid scrolling through his iPad or phone, paying milliseconds of attention to what he's looking at, you have one journey. When you see them opening a book and saying, "Grandma, I never knew that. Where was that? In 1926, it says on the picture." It's a completely different experience. Um, our books, like my dad's, they fold flat, yeah, so that like a book should. They have it's my grandmother. They have the black and white photos and the documents from the my father, wedding pictures with huge bouquets. Black and white photos, kids today don't actually see them anymore. So sorry, that's a long answer to
Well,
why.
thank you. Um, so it isn't just about telling the stories, it's to give to future generations. How have you seen families react when receiving a life book?
It's unbelievable because a lot of people do it as a surprise and give it to their kids, and they never knew they were doing it. But we've had so many different, um, as you can imagine, with all of these, we've had so many different stories. This guy on my right here, um, he he sent this book. It went for his 70th birthday. It was very small. It was before we got into the high quality, and obviously a very religious gentleman. He lives in New York. For his 80th birthday, his family got together and they created this book, which has a whole copy of the one I just showed you at the beginning. But there's stories from the whole family, which they read out at his 80th. And that is there forever. And he got a leather copy of that. And you can see letters from the grandchildren, everything. So, from a point of view of how the family reacts, it's the most priceless thing they get. This one here, yeah, this lady. Oh, you can't see it. Sorry. Um, Unforgettable. She, um, and that's the book, Unforgettable. Her husband was 42. She was pregnant, 15-month-old baby boy, and he dropped dead, a heart attack, age 42. She got us to interview 26 people in Beirut, Lagos, London, and New York. There are 26 stories about Tony. Each chapter is separated by art that they collected together with the story of where they got the art, why they got it. There are texts that when he was dating her at the back. She's only had 3 copies printed. They're in a safe until the boys are 10. That will be the most priceless thing they own.
There's a beautiful sense of purpose behind what you built. How has creating LifeBook Memoirs changed your own outlook on aging, legacy, or even business itself?
Well, I think I do a lot of work on purpose, and I think the reality is that people have to have purpose. It doesn't matter whether they're a teenager or a 90-year-old; they have to have something to do that it gives them meaning in their life. And I did a presentation. I often talk about the value of legacy, not money, because you're very involved, Alan, in your industry, in legacy, and you do a huge job. You know, your book, Discovering Your Legacy, all of this is about legacy. And that's about what you're leaving. But what we're doing is actually more documenting the journey there, the journey to getting that legacy. people talk about the dash. I don't know if you've heard about this whole concept of the dash. I There's two dates: you're born, you die, but it's the dash in between that's the interesting bit, and that's your journey. And so, from my point of view, what it's done for me, it's it's changed. It's given me a purpose beyond airline food. I got a message last week from a guy said unintended consequences. He said, "My father did his book with you some 12 years ago. My mother's since passed away. Dad's walking around he's got dementia now, early stage, but he walks around the house with his book in his hand because that's his memory." And he said, "I'm sending this text to you with a tear in my eye because I never expected this unintended consequence of writing his life story." So everyone is giving purpose, you know. This guy here in Africa, he's only 50, um, and lovely guy, Ike Cha. His story is unbelievable, but what is its title? I Added Value.
You work with a remarkable team of writers, editors, and designers, and every book is treated like its own private masterpiece. Now, how many people are in your team, and what makes your company so special?
So the team makes it special. There are 25 employees between the USA and the UK. But then we have about 300 contractors. And those are either the interviewers, the person who sits with the person telling their story, or the ghostwriter. And the reason that system works is because the interviewer is local. It doesn't matter whether it's Mauritius, Hawaii, or wherever. The interviewer is within 30 minutes of where you live. And they've got a background check. So they're FBI checked. So I'm not sending a criminal around anywhere. And they've got character reference, and they're trained, and they live locally. But the ghostwriter matches the person. So whether they're Irish or Asian or Canadian or Jewish or whatever, we have a writer that matches, or a military background. So you get the best of both worlds. You've got the human contact and then the writer. But in order to pull that into the book, you need a project manager, an editor, a typesetter, a proofreader, and a designer. And that's what makes the beautiful end product.
Many of your clients are high achieving, time poor, or time strapped individuals. And how do you guide them through such a personal and reflective journey? And what surprises them most about the process?
I think guiding them through that journey is key. So they've got two things. They've got a project manager who handholds them during the 6 to 9 months, is there for everything. Because you might want to write a book, and you've written a number of books, so you know what's involved. But sitting down and getting pen to paper is the hardest part of the beginning. Knowing what the output is, what font size you want, what papers are going to be on, what size, etc. So we're guiding them through that journey. The interviewer is literally sitting there having a cup of coffee, or one of our customers in Massachusetts said he insisted on having a glass of wine with her. Um, but they're enjoying that process. But we're taking them in a very structured way through their journey, so they don't wander off in a number of directions. We keep them on that track. And you know what? The ghostwriter then goes back to the interviewer and says, "Hey, Alan was telling this fabulous story about whatever, and you went on to the next thing. Go back and ask him, where did he meet that person? Or how did he feel about it?" So it's a balance between, that handheld nature and the output. And if you were just employing a ghostwriter yourself to do this, you'd have to be the project manager.
So if someone's listening and thinking maybe I should create a life book memoir for a loved one, what would you say to them?
Just do it. Do it now. Start. Don't wait and think, "I'll wait till I'm 70, or wait till I'm 80," or whatever it is. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. And it can be to your memory, it can be to a loved one or whatever. Get on with it. And if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But if you do want to start as soon as possible, and make it honest. It's not the whole truth and nothing but the truth, but it's your legacy. It's the stories that you want to leave. And above all, it's your values. very hard to talk to a 5-year-old grandchild and tell him about your values. But when you can talk to him through the print that he's going to read when he's 15 or 18 or 25, then that's the priceless part.
Roy, how does the person reach out to you and go to the next step?
Yeah, so it's very simple. We've got a team in the US and a team in Europe, and our website's lifebookmemoirs.com. And we don't sell or take orders except through a human talking to a human. We don't even have an answering service. We have a human answering service. I call it HAT, Humans Answering Telephones. And you just have to contact us through that, and we'll guide you through the process. And right from the beginning, everything's integrity. You can cancel a contract at any time. We don't take your money up front because we're dealing with a lot of people ranging from this 41-year-old over my shoulder to a 106-year-old. So integrity is fundamental to us, and privacy. The books that are facing out are the ones we're allowed to show. There's many more vertical ones we're not.
Thank you, Roy. It's been a pleasure having you with us here on American Dreams.
Thank you, Alan, and it's fascinating to see what you're doing as well.